Hello and welcome to TVP World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. The French government has just faced a historic vote of no confidence in Parliament, the first of its kind in 60 years. Now, the last time such a motion passed was in 1962. And on Wednesday, French lawmakers voted to oust Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government just 3 months into his tenure. Now, Barnier is expected to resign on Friday. But now what's the fallout attributed to? Well, mounting discontent over economic policy, societal unrest, including widespread protests against pension reforms. And joining me now to discuss is our guest, Sébastien Maillard, Special Advisor to Jacques Delors Institute. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for being with us here on TVP World Talks.
Good evening.
Bonjour. Now, what do you believe, really, in light of everything that's going on now, that really triggered this dramatic political fallout that France is experiencing right now?
I see three main reasons. The first one is the tactical movements of tactical maneuvers of both the hard left and hard right leaders of Marine Le Pen and Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who both, for different reasons, are aiming against President Macron and want to anticipate the presidential election. This presidential election is due in 2027, but they want it to happen right now, and they want to provoke a situation that would force, at the end of the day, President Macron to resign. So that's why they're forcing this turmoil for very, really personal, tactical, political agendas. But the deeper reason, second reason, is that it's a hung parliament, right? I mean, the parliament that resulted of the snap elections that Macron triggered last summer ended up with 3 blocks and 3 evenly distributed blocks, and there is no majority. And this is new, actually, in the French Republic, at least the Fifth Republic, because we were not used to that kind of situation. It was already the case in the legislative elections of 2022, but the snap elections just got the situation even worse. And the third reason, perhaps the deepest one, is that France politicians lack a culture of compromise. Those 3 blocs just don't want to compromise at all. The hard left is sitting on its side, the hard right on its other side, and the center that was backing Barnier's minority government doesn't also want to compromise much, either a bit on the left or a bit on the right. And so the fact that we lack this culture of compromise that Barnier was trying to support explains why it ended up in such turmoil and this no confidence vote. Also because the purpose of this of Barnier government was to prepare a budget in times of very sluggish growth and with tax increases and spending cuts. And so, of course, it's unpopular measures. And when you have parties that don't want to compromise to do unpopular things, that's how it ends up.
Was this situation actually foreseeable before? Or did this completely come in as a surprise?
No, we knew from the beginning that it was a shaky situation, that it was unstable. And I mean, actually, the financial markets had already anticipated this in a way. But on the hard left, they were, from the very beginning, opposing Barnier's nomination. They thought they would deserve to be in government. And Le Pen was a bit holding her cards. And then, since she's facing a trial that is putting her political future in jeopardy, she became very nervous by mid-November. And then that's when she decided that she would back a no confidence vote, even coming from the hard left. Then yes, beginning earlier this week, it became clear, at least on last Monday, that this would be the outcome. There was a big kind of hope from maybe some socialists who would have wanted to side out of the hard left, but this actually didn't happen. And we saw yesterday during the vote that there were over 330 MPs, exactly 331, that voted against Barnier, where only a threshold of 288 were necessary. So it was quite massive. And I think Barnier was the last one to believe it would be possible.
Let me ask you this, though. How much of this collapse actually reflects a broader disconnect between the French government and the French public?
I think it rightly points out that it shows a growing disconnect, I wouldn't say with the government, but between the French public and the so-called political class politique, or the MPs. There was a survey recently in Le Monde earlier this week, which showed that only 22% of the French trust their lawmakers, the MPs, and that's down 7 points from in a year's time. And even the trade unions are a bit also wary of what is happening. They were not quite supportive of this new mayhem. Farmers are upset. There are some strikes today that were planned. So yes, it is. There is. I think the French public opinion at large is weary of so much political squabbles.
Sébastien, tell me a little bit more about these about this pension reforms that's also reportedly the reason that these protesters are also demanding, right, reforms into that. What do we know about these pension reforms?
That's actually on the hard left position. There was a pension reform that Macron pushed under the Elizabeth Borne's government last year, and this was a very unpopular reform. And the fact that it was done so politically violently through a vote of what we call in the provision in the Constitution of Article 49.3, that is actually the capacity of the government to force a reform with bypassing the National Assembly, that of course was left some hurt French public opinion. Even those who supported the reform thought it wasn't done the right way to make it democratically acceptable. So yes, this is partly on the left side of the unrest, but the problem is that we cannot, if France was to want to abandon this reform, then it will put its budget in difficulty. And we know that the first task of any new government will be to fix the budget, because we are running a very dangerous deficit, which is over 6% of the GDP in 2024.
Sébastien, where do you see France heading politically in the next few months, given the current gridlock and the situation that's taking place?
It is a gridlock, and what is the reason we are in sort of a stalemate situation is that the parliament, as I said, is a hung parliament. There is no obvious majority, and we're stuck with this parliament at least until next summer. Next July, because it takes a year before Macron can call out a new election after having triggered these last summer, the previous ones. And so we have to make up with that situation. And as long as no parties want to do any compromise, there can only be short-lived minority governments, perhaps several in a row. We could hope perhaps for
Sébastien, let me just interrupt you right there. I mean, you've said this a couple of times now in our interview. I mean, they're not willing to compromise. So in your opinion, what is it going to take these parties together to actually come to a certain compromise?
Well, I would like to have the answer to your question, because that's what we've been waiting for over the past months. What the change maker would be perhaps that if the Socialist Party, the party of François Hollande, if they were to leave their alliance with the hard left, with Mélenchon, and accept to compromise with the center party, with Macronists, with liberals, even with right-wing Republicans, then we could have another kind of majority, and it would be a mainstream coalition, and this could go ahead. But there are not many signs yet at this stage that they are willing to do so. There are some attempts, and it would be interesting to see in the coming days if, according to the Prime Minister that Macron will appoint, if there is some willingness from the socialists to be more constructive. But at this stage, this hasn't happened, but that's actually, I think, a key point. The other way, the hard way, the external way to compromise is if the financial markets get nervous and that the borrowing cost of France get so difficult that it is forced to adjust and to fix its budget. But that would be quite the hard way, and of course everyone would prefer it to come to that the political parties reach some kind of compromise before getting to that extreme point.
Let me ask you now this, though. What challenges do you see Emmanuel Macron, what do you predict that he's going to have in terms of rebuilding trust and consensus around all of this?
He'll be speaking tonight on French TV. The fact that the government has been toppled puts him back in the front line. I think he will try firstly to dismiss any rumor that he could resign or that he will, I believe, on the contrary, reaffirm that he's here to stay and that he's a guarantor of a political institutional stability of France, and so that he's elected until 2027, and he previously said that he will never resign before the very last minute of his mandate.
Do you think he will resign, or will he stay?
Stability.
Do you think he will resign? Do you think he will resign?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, and I think he will do everything to dismiss that kind of idea that is spreading, because if he does so, then financial markets will really get nervous, and it can only bring more turmoil. It's actually in his own capacity now to try to name as quickly as possible a new prime minister.
Do you have any idea of who that may be?
Well, it's I wouldn't go out on this now because I'm not in Macron's office. There are some names coming, but it will basically depend also on how this person is welcomed by, especially the Socialist Party that I was mentioning, if they are ready to enter some kind of coalition. I believe MPs are now aware that they cannot dismiss another government right away, that they cannot topple it. The hard left has said yes, they will do it unless it's a government prime minister that comes from their own ranks, but that will not happen. And so it's really up now for the MPs to behave differently. I think they are aware also of the trouble they are causing in French public opinion, and so maybe. But it's really up to Macron to do quickly, because if he takes several weeks, of course, this will just fuel the debates, the arguments for him to resign. So I think he will probably name someone in the coming hours, if not tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Sébastien Maillard, a special advisor at the Jacques Delors Institute, for breaking us down for us the political shakeup in France. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks here on TVP World. But don't go away. Up next, another interview, this time on the situation in Ukraine. Up next.